Hi guys, how's it going? This is Resin off Collinwood for YouTube. Sorry for the late recording, but I'm here to continue my villains video, and I'm here to do Barnabas Collins. Really, is this a question mark of whether Barnabas is a villain or not? It's not so much a question mark because he is a villain. He is sort of he is a heelish character when we first really get to meet him. Me and Mark Gilman, my buddy Mark Gilman, shout out to him. We were talking about 1795. We did the arc, and we were talking about prior to going back, prior to meeting the 1795 Barnabas. Barnabas was a really ruthless character when we first actually meet him. And it's not just, you might say, well, here's this thief who accidentally lets him out of his coffin. It's not done on purpose, which is true. I think when we think about when we think about Barnabas, we don't just think about Barnabas. We think about who let him out, and that was Willie Loomis. And Willie Loomis wasn't looking for Barnabas. Willie was looking for Naomi's jewels. Remember, he's trying to open Naomi's coffin, and he accidentally opens the secret door to the mausoleum. Um, Now, was Barnabas calling to him? Was a bit, yeah, but I think so. I think too. Here's somebody. He's not. To me, he's not latching the hook onto the mausoleum to open door. He's latching the hook onto the lion's mouth to pry open Naomi's coffin. Remember, he's trying to pull open Naomi's coffin, and it's not working. So he rigs up this pulley system, and that's how he opens the door accidentally. So then he opens up Barnabas. He unchains the coffin and lets Barnabas out accidentally. Remember, he's looking at he when he first opens the coffin. He's smiling. He's not smiling at Barnabas. He's smiling at the jewels that Barnabas is wearing because he wants to steal them. Then he realizes, oh no, this person's actually undead or alive, if you will. So you might say, well, Willie's a thief. He's a bad character. True. He's a villain, by this still at this point. Here's a villain. I've talked about how there are characters who are bad, who are not the greatest quality. Is Barnabas worse than Willie? Yeah, at first he is. Look, in every way, Willie is the perfect patsy. Willie is the perfect person that if anything goes wrong for Barnabas, he can just point the finger at Willie. And I'm going to get right to the kidnapping of Maggie Owens. Who better to let you out of your coffin than a thief, right? Who better to let you out of your coffin than a shady character, a suspect character? Because it's not just the fact that he kidnaps Maggie Evans, it's how he goes about doing it. He hires Sam Evans to paint his portrait. Keep in mind, Barnabas knows he already has a portrait in the great house. What no one else knows other than Willie is this is the original Barnabas. For at least a good while until Julia Hoffman comes aboard. So for a while, only Willie knows that this is the 1795 Barnabas. Now that he's a vampire, right? So now once he starts hiring Sam Evans to paint his portrait, then he kidnaps Maggie. Barnabas hires Sam knowing he's going to kidnap Maggie. He already knew that once he went to the the diner or whatever, the hotel slash inn, when he actually sees Maggie, when he actually first meets Maggie. So he knows he's going to kidnap Maggie Evans. Um, you could sort of wonder how, because according to the episode that he actually sees Maggie, it's the first time Maggie's met him and he's met Maggie, but you sort of wonder how long he's been actually watching Maggie, I think. In my opinion, if you disagree, please do. Um, so once he meets Maggie, he intentionally leaves his cane. And I love the fact that John Carlin's Willie Loomis calls him on this. John Carlin knows, hey, you didn't just leave that there by accident. You left that there on purpose, so she'd have to come here. You're interested in her. John Carlin right away calls it, and I love how here's John Carlin. Yes, here's his character, Willie Loomis. Yes, he's a thief. I've talked about how he picks up right where sort of James Hall left off. I could see James Hall doing what John Carlin did. Sort of calling him out, right? Calling Barnabas out. But here you have John Carlin, who has more than taken over for James Hall, and because remember, 206 is the last, I want to say 205, 206 is the last episode of James Hall as Willie Loomis. Because it's when we first see, it's when David is showing James Hall's Willie Loomis the portraits. He's showing him Jeremiah, he's showing him this one, he's showing him Isaac. Then out in the hall that's when we're first introduced to Barnabas's portrait. So Willie gets in, obviously after that, John Carlin takes over. He gets into a fight with Burt Devlin, which we know even from James Hall, this has been coming. I think that's what something James Hall doesn't get enough credit for. The fight with Burke is more set up through James Hall. And John Carlin just picks it up really beautifully and does a good job continuing to instigate. Then when the fight happens, it's no shock, right? So again, both actors did a great job. They, neither, to me, neither gets enough credit for what they did with Willie Loomis, what they did with that character. So when John Carlin's calling out Barnabas for leaving, he knows, right? He knows that cane was left on purpose for Maggie to bring back, and Maggie and Joe bring it back. And he thanks Maggie. This is all just one big setup by Barnabas, obviously. Everyone knows this. And then, obviously Barnabas I've talked about how Barnabas hires Sam. He's paying Sam to paint his portrait. Really, he's not just paying Sam, if you're familiar with Dark Shadows, to paint his portrait. He's basically doing this to kidnap Maggie Evans. It's not just the fact that he kidnaps Maggie Evans. I've talked about this. It's how he goes about doing it. He's just doing this to get to Maggie, to torture Sam. It's just one big cruel act by Barnabas. This is what sort of makes him bad when he comes out. Yes, you could say, well, you feel sorry for him. Yes, I think you do. And here's why a bit. Jonathan Frid did a great job painting the picture that Barnabas knew, that there was a relationship between Barnabas and Josette way before 1795. And what paints that picture, and I've talked about this, is when Barnabas is having a conversation with Josette's portrait. In every way, he's having a conversation with Josette's ghost without physically seeing Josette's ghost. So he's talking to her and he's telling her, because David tells him, if you were calling, she'd protect you. This is Barnabas sympathetic before they actually technically made him sympathetic. This is what to me made him sympathetic with me. This line, I was a Collins. Where were you when I was turned into something that my own father loathed? If his ghost is here with yours, tell him I've come home, and tell him I've lived a life I never had. I am free now and alive. The chains in which he bound me with are broken. And this isn't somebody who's angry. This isn't somebody who's pissed off. This is somebody who's generally feels betrayed. I'm not just talking by Angelique, before we actually know there's an Angelique. I'm talking, think about what we know now. Joshua, the most hardened, stubborn son of a you-know-what, okay? He pretty much gives his word that he's going to do Barnabas, his own son, in. Up until this point, Joshua is the only one that hasn't been affected by the curse. Here's where Joshua does get affected by the curse. He actually gives a shit about his son. But it's not just because Barnabas is his son. Think about everything that had happened in 1795. The death of Sarah Collins, the death of Barnabas' sister and Joshua's daughter, the death of Naomi Collins, the death of Barnabas' mother and Joshua's wife. This all accumulates, and really Barnabas killing Nathan too. This all accumulates. Joshua's hardened posterior, and Joshua is. Me and Mark were talking about this in 1795. Joshua's a dick, and he is. I mean, he's not. When you say, is he a role model father? Well, let me say this. It's not that he's a bad dad. He's more of a tyrant and a dictator as much as he tries to be a father. He more tries to be a tyrant and a dictator than he does a father. It's at the end of 1795 is when he really is a father. He really is a dad. He really is a husband. He's lost his daughter by this point. He doesn't want to lose his son a second time because he's already lost him once. So he doesn't want to see him go away. He doesn't want to kill him. So by the time his wife dies, by the time Barnabas kills Barnabas kills Nathan. Also, Barnabas kills Jeremiah in a duel. So all these things have accumulated. Okay, so in order, Barnabas kills Jeremiah in a duel. Barnabas marries Angelique, who's a witch. He finds out she's a witch. He shoots her. She turns him into a vampire. She curses him. Anyone who you will love and will love you back will die. Sarah is the epitome of this. Sarah loves Barnabas. That's his sister. They were so close. She dies. She dies of illness. And if you've never watched 1795, I'm sorry for the spoiler. So I'll get back to the bad Barnabas here in a second. This all whatever. Then Naomi poisons herself because Nathan has told her that Barnabas is a Collinsport strangler. Nathan's own ignorance does Naomi in. Nathan's own ignorance, because Nathan doesn't know what Barnabas is yet. Once Nathan finds out through Joshua and Ben, too little, too late, and Nathan gets killed in Joshua's study. What they're going to call Jeremiah. What if you notice in the 1960s they call it, oh, Jeremiah used that study. Sure, Jeremiah never got a chance to use that study. Because again, by the time they moved in the house, Jeremiah was dead. Jeremiah died in the duel. Joshua has seen it all. He's seen the death of his brother. He's buried his brother. He's seen the death of he's buried his daughter. Prior to that, he's buried his son. He thought his son had literally died. So again, brother, son, daughter, wife. He now knows by the time his wife poisons herself, He more than knows his son's a vampire. This this is why Joshua can't stake Barnabas. He can't. He does. He's buried enough family members. He's seen enough family members die, and technically Barnabas is already dead. He does not want to end Barnabas's undead life, even though he gave his word, and Joshua's word is as good as gold. When Joshua said something, it happened, and we all saw this throughout 1795, pretty much, right? When damn it, but Joshua can't do it. He can't, and this is where the curse gets him. He finally gives a shit, and it's at the wrong time. So he chains his son up. This is what I mean by Barnabas. This is where I felt sorry for Barnabas. I know we didn't know that at the time when Barnabas said those words, but think about, you got to take into account what we know now. You can't just take into account, oh, we didn't know that. True, we didn't know that then, but we have to take into account what we know now about Barnabas. Barnabas felt betrayed by his dad most of all. Not so much Joseph. I mean, look, not so much Joseph because, yes, somewhat Joseph because she married Jeremiah. But he felt betrayed by Josette because Josette married Jeremiah. And Josette, who was Josette friends with? Angelique. Okay. Yes, Angelique didn't know, or sorry, Josette didn't know Angelique was a vampire. Or sorry, Angelique was a witch. Sorry. Sorry, Angelique becomes a vampire later on. See how this goes? Goodness. So Barnabas feels betrayed. Who's the one person maybe Barnabas doesn't feel betrayed by? Sarah. Sarah Sarah died. Again, so did Joshua. They all died loving Barnabas in every way. Joshua may have died of natural causes, when you think about it. But they all loved Barnabas. They all loved him. Whether it was later on, whether it was sooner. Sarah loved her brother. Josette loved Barnabas. They were going to get married. Naomi loved Barnabas. Joshua loved Barnabas. Again, Joshua had his own way of showing it until later on. And we act again. So Barnabas feels betrayed by his own father. He feels hurt. It's like, this man gave me his word. When he gave me his word, it always happened. And I think Barnabas is realizing that his dad succumbed to the curse in his own way. And I think that's why he feels the way he feels when he's talking to Josette's portrait. His dad, his the woman he was meant to be married to, and he knows he was meant to be married to her. He ended up marrying a witch, and he's mad at himself too. He's mad at himself for being deceived. Because just like everybody else, Barnabas was deceived. Barnabas wanted to see the good in people. And I think that's the thing too. It's Barnabas didn't just look at Angelique one day and said, "Oh, you're a witch." No, this wasn't false prosecution. This wasn't for false persecution. He went to Ben and he said to Ben, "You know who the witch is." Well, I can't tell you because the witch stops me from speaking. I've taught you how I've been teaching you how to write. I've taught you how to write. Write the witch's initials. Write V for Victoria. I want you to think about that. Barnabas deep down knows it's really Angelique by this point. But he's not false. He's not directly accusing Angelique. He's accusing who everyone else is. And Ben's like, no, no, no. Ben's not saying no for no reason. He's saying no to Barnabas, like, no, you're wrong. No, he's already speaking in a sense. No, you're. He's not saying no. He's not saying you're wrong. He's basically, when he says no, he's saying no, you're wrong without saying you're wrong. So when he says no, Ben is telling him you're wrong. So he writes a V in the sand, V for Victoria, and then he puts the A across. Like Christine and Kara did a great job explaining this. I'll leave a link to their channel. Huge shout out to them. So Barnabas, who now knows, who has now confirmed his suspicion, right? So keep in mind this when you're going back to in the 60s. To Barnabas, this 1960s is all a fresh start. When he sees Maggie, he doesn't see Maggie. He does see Josette. And I can't blame him for that because Maggie does look like Josette. I love her in the Josette dress. She looks beautiful. But again, I give Catherine Lee Scott a lot of credit. Catherine Lee Scott, I love how she's looking in the mirror. I'm Maggie Evans, and slams the music box shut. I've talked about how Barnabas was never going to kill Maggie. Because if it were just about turning Maggie, why does Maggie need to accept it? Why does Maggie need to accept being Josette? Think of 1795, when Josette was put under a spell by Angelique to jump. Angelique had showed Maggie, or showed Josette what she was going to become. In Maggie's dreams, she's seen what she's going to become. This terrifies her, just like it terrified Josette. Is this Angelique? Is this Josette showing her? You could point to either or. Honestly, I think you could. Because I don't think, if Josette's showing it to her, I don't think Josette would be showing it to her to be cruel. Josette's just showing it to her, hey, you don't want to jump off. This is, in a sense, you could say it shows that you don't want to jump off Widow's Hill. You don't want to become a vampire. You need to be you. In a way, again, this is before the house, before she officially gets kidnapped. Now, once she's kidnapped, and I've talked about how she's dressed like Josette, David sees her, you know, they threaten her father in front of her. She's up the steps. Now, keep this. She knows all this. She knows the people she cares about are in danger. Again, Barnabas could kill them. He could kill her. At the snap of his fingers, he could kill these people. This is why I say Barnabas does not want to kill Maggie. Does not want to turn Maggie, because if he wanted to, he could have just did it. He could have used his powers to do it. He could have just forced her. He doesn't want to force her. He wants her to accept it. He wants her to accept it because he himself could never accept it. He could never accept being a vampire. He hated being a vampire. He hated the curse. He hated Angelique for putting a curse on him. This thing killed his family. Angelique, in a sense, killed his family. So, by putting the curse on him. So, is Barnabas evil or bad or a villain when he comes out? In a sense, he is, but you sort of feel sorry for him because of how he is. Not just because he's a vampire, but because Frida's already painted the picture of There's more to this guy than his fangs. And again, that's pre 1795. That conversation with Josette's portrait is one of the most important pieces prior to Hoffman's arrival, prior to 1795, prior to kidnapping Maggie and trying to make her Josette. And think about this. He had every opportunity to kill Maggie. He could have just did it. He had every opportunity to kill her. Think about her, prior to the escape and then the escape when he catches up. He could have just reached down and snapped her neck. He doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't just snap her neck. He could have just. It's too easy for Barnabas to kill somebody. We've seen that. Now he doesn't do it. He doesn't. He doesn't kill her. He could easily have killed her in the house or killed her outside of it. No, he doesn't do it. Here's a guy who can disappear into thin air and reappear. Yet he chooses not to kill a woman who he wants to kill. I don't buy that he wanted to kill her. And again, he could have just converted her. He wanted her to choose. He wanted her to accept this, what he could never do. And it's amazing when you think about it that way. Now, I've talked about how Willie was all too easy to set up because, again, Willie was a thief. So once Maggie gets put in the Windcliff, they fake her death. They tell everybody she's dead. This doesn't last too terribly long because obviously Hoffman has been investigating it. And once she comes to Collinwood, I love. Before that, I love the cemetery scene when Vicky thinks she saw Maggie with some woman. They don't know it's Hoffman. They don't know her and Burke, right? And Burke's telling Barnabas she thought she saw Maggie, and this does alarm Barnabas. Not, it's like, wait a second, have I gone too far here with her? Because if she thinks she saw Maggie, that's a problem. Because everyone thinks Maggie's dead. Now, obviously, we're gonna find out Maggie's alive. Again, Julia Hoffman revealing to Barnabas she's a doctor. She can help him. The first technically official, you know, official going to 1795 for me from a story arc is when they did kill Dr. Dave Woodard. Again, because they know by this time they knew they were going back. They knew they were going to do an origin story, I think. But because you're not killing Dave, you're not making the decision to kill Dave Woodard if you're not. Now, this also, you're sort of playing double. I love how they did this. They don't have Hoffman kill Woodard. They have Barnabas do it with the needle. So you're still preserving Julia as a baby face. If she had stuck that needle in, and me and Mark were talking about this, there's no going back. Where Barnabas, you might say, well, why does Barnabas get a pass for killing Dave Woodard? Barnabas gets a pass because Barnabas has done this constantly. He's always protected his secret. So anybody who found out, anybody who was he even remotely of finding out, he killed them. The thing with Victoria is she was hypnotized. I know, right? He doesn't kill Victoria. Thank God. He'd have killed Victoria, we'd have had a real problem. We'd had an issue. Even with coming back from 1795, with Victoria coming back from 1795, there would have been an issue if we'd have killed Victoria. There would have been a real issue. Um, but I think him killing Dave, again, there's evil and there's a necessary evil, right? I think that's what at times Barnabas is. He's a necessary evil. He wants to protect his secret, and he does not want to shame the Collins name. He feels he already has in a way. He doesn't want to shame it further by exposing his secret. His father never wanted the secret exposed. At one time, his father's wanting to destroy his own son to save his son's soul, but he loves his son so much he can't bring himself to do it. And again, all this makes you feel sorry for Barnabas. All this, every single thing. He lost Josette in 1795 to another man. He lost Josette to a witch by a witch casting a spell, having her jump off a himself. He lost his sister. He lost his mother. His father, in a sense, succumbs to the curse by not being able to kill him. He feels betrayed. You get why he does what he does when he kidnaps Maggie. You get it right away, in my opinion. That's how I feel about this. And again, I've talked about Willie's easy to set up, and Barnabas does everything to set him up. Barnabas does everything. I know Willie goes to warn Maggie, but I sort of think, I know we don't technically see this happen. I know we don't see Barnabas sort of using some sort of mind control, Willie, but I sort of think subconsciously Barnabas sends Willie there. Look, Barnabas knows there are cops. Bo Garden, Maggie Evans's cottage, okay, Sam Evans's cottage, and they know, they're gonna shoot to kill. And by the way, unlike Barnabas, they're actually accurate with a gun. The stormtroopers of Star Wars need to take notes from the fine folks, from the fine police officers of Collinsport, because they know how to handle a gun. Um, uh, Vader should have been recruiting them as stormtroopers, so they could actually hit their targets. And because listen, they shoot Willie in front of like a double door with glass. They don't hit the glass; they hit Willie. And again, Barnabas planting Maggie's ring in the candle holder. It just Willie was the perfect patsy for Barnabas. He was the perfect patsy to set up. And really, you could have seen if the roles would have been reversed. If it had been Jason, this would have been the same conclusion too. Had it been somebody with a shady record, a shady past, Barnabas would have did this to anybody with a shady past, because no one ever questions the good name of the Collins family, right? Right? You should question it. You should absolutely question it. Oh God, you should question it just like you question Willie Loomis's decisions or Jason McGuire's decisions, whoever. But that's the luxury of being a Collins, right? You don't get to have your decisions questioned or your morals questioned because you have honor and integrity. It doesn't matter how many cows you've slaughtered or people's daughters you've kidnapped. You don't get, it's the luxury of being a Collins. Oh my God. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts. I know I rambled on here. Again, sorry for the late delay. I had gotten tired and fallen asleep, so I apologize. It's 6 o'clock in the morning here where I'm at. All right, guys, you guys have a great morning.